Alright, so we made it past configuration. So this is the Goldfish attempt number 1, current iteration of Jhoira. I've been working on first 7. We got a Jeweled Lotus, a Transplant Theorist, Mana Vault, Island, Volcanic Island, Displacement Wave, and Mox Amber. So just right off the cuff, not having even drawn anything, I mean, this is a very strong follow-up here, because we've got Volcanic Island to start. You could start with the Island if you really want to be cheeky. So, Island, Jeweled Lotus into Jhoira with a follow-up on turn 1. So that's actually technically 2 follow-ups if we're going to be going after Mana Vault here. And then haven't drawn anything, so analysis here is I would probably take this. I would probably take this and run with it, because, and this is another thing to bear in mind, if you're running up against a Mind Break trap, they're gonna be able to hit this. They're not gonna be able to hit Jhoira because she's your second cast. The land drop doesn't count, so it's land, Lotus, Jhoira. It's only 2. That's not too bad of a spot to be in. Then you can kind of gauge and take it from there. It also depends on what we draw. So for the sake of, let's see what that is. Okay. Transmute Artifact. So this could take us a lot of ways. Now, this is also all turn 1. So let's goldfish this. Let's play this out. So remember, this is our draw. Just getting everything organized in hand here. All right, so we're gonna be cheeky. We're gonna go with the initial play of Island, Jeweled Lotus, crack Lotus, generate 3 red, Island into Jhoira. All right. Table check, see if it resolves. If so, we're going to follow it up with a Mox Amber, trigger Jhoira, draw a card. So that draw was Fabricate. So already we've got 2 tutors in hand. So really not a bad way to start. Now again, you have to be careful right here. Mind Break Trap is still very much a thing. So we just want to be mindful of our positioning at the table. Another thing to be considered of, remember we still have Mana Vault, we still have another land in the Transplant Theorist. So the Theorist is something new that I'm trying out. The biggest thing here is whenever Transplant Theorist or another artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So it's filtering, but we're going to get it twice. Once for Jhoira, going to draw, then it's going to draw for itself when we discard, just like we do with Riddlesmith. So this is why we want to, I should say, test this out. So let's go ahead and see. So we've made it through our turn 1. We don't have any counters in hand, but we also remember a lot of people know what we do. They know we want to draw. So if we kind of leave them guessing, okay, you could stop right here. So we're still on turn 1. Still on turn 1. If I were feeling antsy or like I wanted to push, yeah, I would tap 1, play the Mana Vault, trigger Jhoira, draw a card. Alright, we drew Deflecting Swat. So this is actually a decent spot to be in. Okay, because this gives us some form of protection. So we still have Transmute Artifact, Fabricate, Displacement Wave, Volcanic Island, and the Transplant Theorist. So I would argue this is a pretty good spot for turn 1. You just want to be very leery of a Mind Break Trap and things of that nature. So, alright. Resolve. Pass turn. Makes it back around to us. Untap. Upkeep. Which we have no upkeep. Triggers draw. And we draw a Shivan Reef. Alright, so again, really not a bad spot to be. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely want to go for Volcanic Island here. So remember, we've got 3. We only need 1 blue for the Theorist. He's the only artifact we've got at the moment, unless we want to try and fabricate. So it's kind of at this point, you want to evaluate where you're at within the table. How are things looking? How are things progressing? This is a pretty strong spot to be in. Remember, we're still at the beginning of our turn 2. All I've done is played Volcanic Island. It's a very strong place to be in. However, this is the one thing our deck typically struggles with. If you go too fast, you burn out. You know, you don't have much. So then the question becomes, okay, do we float mana? Do we bounce things with Displacement Wave? You know, how do we try and proceed here? Okay. So I am going to do 1 blue and 3 colorless and do Transplant Theorist. We're going to trigger Jhoira first. Draw a card. That card for us is going to be an offer you can't refuse. All right, good spot, good spot. More interaction. We like that. Then I'm going to trigger the Transplant Theorist, coming in and getting a card for itself. All right, Engineered Explosives. This is another fun one I've been wanting to try, because it depends on if you're dealing with a lot of tokens, dealing with treasures. Okay. So you can pay to sacrifice Engineered Explosives, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on Engineered Explosives. Guess what 0 gets you? Something for y'all to think about. Alright, so this is what we got, but now we've got to discard something. So I feel like the mass bounce is kind of important. We know we like the interaction. I want to keep the land, and I want to keep the Engineered Explosives. So we're down over here to these 2. So Transmute Artifact is good, but it's 2 battlefield. Now, this is why I wanted to test the Transplant Theorist, because 2 battlefield is still gonna get us a card and a discard off of the Theorist. This is what I've been wanting to test. So for the sake of, I'm actually going to pitch Fabricate. It's things like this that you want to be conscious of when you're going through stuff. So I discard. Now, of course, we've got the Engineered Explosives, and yes, you can pay this, pay 0 and just play it. But we also have the Displacement Wave that we want to be considerate of. Okay. Now, at this stage here, yeah, I could drop this. Its effective CMC is 0. Get a card draw, and then we can actually pay 2 and go into Displacement Wave and start bouncing things. So if we just want to kind of, if you're feeling lucky, you're feeling like you're in a good spot, that's probably what we're gonna do. So we'll go ahead and do Engineered Explosives. We're gonna trigger Jhoira first and draw a card. Spire Bluff Canal land, not super helpful. We'll trigger the Transplant Theorist. Draw a card. Let's see. All right, Riddlesmith. All right, we all know that this is one of our bread and butter pieces. You know, trying to get into the turbo. Let's draw some more cards. So we're gonna keep that, but we got to pitch something. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. Spire Bluff Canal, not a bad pitch here. Okay. All right, so that puts us in a good position. We still have 2 mana here. We still have an Engineered Explosives. So it's at this point where you gotta ask yourself if this one's worth it. Okay? Because right now, if we just put X as 0, it's going to be all 0 CMC. It's going to be these 2. Okay? That's a few more draws. That's not a bad spot to be in. So remember, turn 2 here, guys. Turn 2. We're going to go ahead and do Displacement Wave. Bounce these 2 back to hand. First up, you know we got to play our favorite Mox Amber. Trigger Jhoira first. Draw a card. Alright, Muddle the Mixture. We're not really in a great spot for this, but remember, it doubles as interaction. Alright, then we're going to trigger the Transplant Theorist. Draw. Training Center. Alright, remember, we still got Shivan Reef, though. We still have another land here. So, I'll be perfectly honest. It's the draw, but it's probably also going to be the discard. Alright. Then, of course, Engineered Explosives. Alright, so we'll trigger Jhoira. Draw a card. Steam Vents. Alright, so this is a little bit nicer than Shivan Reef. But remember, this is our free draw. So I'm just going to restructure my hand a little bit here. All right, then we're going to do Transplant Theorist. So we're going to draw Rhystic Study. Nice, not too bad, not too bad. All right, so we'll take that, and yep, you guessed it. We're probably going to pitch Shivan Reef for right now. All right, so this is not a bad spot to be in because we can still swat. We could still an offer you can't refuse if we got somebody who's wanting to get smart. So at this point, I would argue this is good for a table rotation. Hand check, we're at 7 cards, so the draw and the discard's been keeping it pretty consistent. All right, go through here, go through a rotation. We still have our stuff. Everything's still looking pretty good. Now, I at the moment do not have enough to untap our vault, so we're going to take 1 damage, putting us at 39 so far. Let's go ahead and see what our draw is. It's going to be Tormod's Crypt. Easy peasy. Easy, easy, easy. All right, so we're going to go ahead and shock in our steam vents, bring us down to 37. So, of course, believe it or not, how we're feeling right now, we actually want to get out to Riddlesmith first. So I'm going to go ahead and tap down the 2 to get to Riddlesmith. Crucial, crucial, crucial. We want to get to drawing more cards as quick as we can here. Okay, turbo, turbo, turbo. What's wrong? I want to go fast. All right. Tormod Crypt. So remember, you're the player. You pick the order. We're going to trigger Jhoira first, get our free draw, and that's going to be Aether Spellbomb. Not too bad. However, I mean, if it's looking for a bounce, remember this is creature. Target creature. So this is a creature bounce or a draw card. So we'll keep that in mind. It's also good discard fodder at the moment. Then we're going to trigger our Transplant Theorist so we can do our draw and discard. Sensei's Divining Top. Boys, let's go. All right, remember, we still have Transmute Artifact in hand, so that's a pretty good spot to be in. But now we got to pitch something, and like I said earlier, actually, probably right here, I'm feeling Rhystic Study. Not going to lie, I feel like we got a lot of card draw going. See, this is why I'm not exactly big on Rhystic at the moment. All right, we still got to trigger Riddlesmith here, so we still have another draw. Island, okay, pretty straightforward. We do want to keep up a land because it looks like we're starting to lose a little bit of steam here, a little bit of steam. So, since I don't feel like we're going for Underworld Breach at this point, I will go ahead and do Muddle of the Mixture. All right. Now remember, we still have 2 artifacts in hand. We got a land for next turn that we're kind of sandbagging a little bit here. Still not a bad spot. Let's go ahead and get into it. Volcanic Island. Sensei's Divining Top. Again, check for interaction. Jhoira first. Jhoira's always first, alright? Boom, Cavern Souls, land for turn. Alright, that's kind of helpful. Especially, we probably want to prioritize, just in case anyone's ever wondered, why is Cavern Souls in here? We kind of want to prioritize, because Artificer gets us real far. Jhoira's an Artificer, Transplant Theorist is an Artificer, Riddlesmith's an Artificer. Lots of really things to name with Cavern of Souls, and it is a colored land, so, you know, if a pitch fodder is needed, I still have an island. Alright, so now we're going to do Transplant Theorist. Hercule's Recall, let's go. A lot of turbo, a lot of potential card draw here, to the point where, well, no, I kind of want to keep Aether Spellbomb if I can. So, sadly, our island's going to have to go. Now we trigger Riddlesmith. All right, Helm of Awakening. Yes, yes, yes. This is big time coming up here. Got to check your board though. We only got 1 source of mana. And I'll be perfectly honest, if I gotta pitch something, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's yeah, it's probably gonna have to be. See, this is the tough part about this deck. So remember, we got Helm of Awakening. That's gonna pair really good with Sensei's Divining Top. We also have Hercule's Recall. Now, see, here's the problem is right now, check the board state. We do not have enough mana to cast it. Okay? So most likely our real proper discard is going to be this one, because we could do either Spell Bomb, we want to keep our interaction, we want to keep this, we want to keep a land. So as much as I want to see this deck go hard and fast, sadly I think our discard for a Theorist is going to have to be Hercule's Recall. And then we still got to do Riddlesmith, Experimental Synthesizer. Okay, so this is an interesting spot, because this is actually going to give us cards until the end of the next turn. Alright, so we're back after being rudely interrupted. Alright, so we are on turn 3. We just drew Experimental Synthesizer. We're in the process of resolving a discard for Riddlesmith. At this point, I mean, I would argue it's an effective replacement for either Spellbomb, unless you really see something, have something that you're dealing with that just needs to go. Alright, so in this scenario, I am assuming that that is not the case. You may need to adjust your play, depending. So we're going to discard that. Now that does give us one more shot, so we are going to go ahead and we are going to do Experimental Synthesizer. Now this one and this one both specify cast. This one specifies ETB. Now, if memory serves me correctly, this is ETB as well. These two are going to trigger first, then I'm going to trigger the Theorist, then I'm going to have Experimental Synthesizer. So this is one of those cases where you have to be paying attention. So it's going to be Jhoira, Riddlesmith, Theorist, Experimental Synthesizer. So remember, that's going to get us about 4 cards deep. So let's go ahead and get our draw for Jhoira. Alright, land, Mana Confluence. That's an easy one. It's easy discard fodder if it's necessary. Riddlesmith. Draw and discard. Alright, Shimmermere. This is another one I want to test. So yeah, boom. Right here, land. There we go. Alright. Experimental Synthesizer enters the battlefield. We're going to trigger the Theorist first. Draw a card. Brain Freeze. Now this is an interesting one. Okay? Because this is a little bit easier to kind of pull off, being a storm. But we have a lot more things that support going after Mystic Forge. So, believe it or not, one of those rare cases, we're gonna pitch the freeze. Now we're gonna have Experimental Synthesizer trigger. We're gonna exile the top card of our library, which is a Resculpt. Excellent. Excellent. Can't do anything with it, so it's probably gonna stay exiled. But really, really not a bad hit on top. Not a bad hit at all. So we're gonna put that all the way over there. All right. So I feel like this is a good spot. We got a pretty strong hand. I know we're out of mana, but this right here, see, this is the part I want to try. Flash. Something I feel like a lot of people forget. Flash is a lot faster, is faster than instant. I have to double check the phrasing on that, but if memory serves me correctly, Flash is faster than instant. That's important. I think. I'll check that later. Alright, so in turn, assume a full rotation, assume nothing crazy happens. Alright. So we're untapping. Oh, I take another damage, that's going to put us to 36. Everything else is looking pretty good. We still have a Resculpt from Experimental Synthesizer. It's something you guys want to be conscious of. Our draw is going to be Force of Will. Beautiful. It's what we like to see. Alright, so let's kind of evaluate a little bit here, because we got a bunch of artifacts. Nothing super duper crazy. So, of course, probably one of the first things we want to do is 1, 2, for the Helm of Awakening. Alright, things are starting to look up. So, we're going to trigger Jhoira, draw, Mental Misstep. Beautiful. Pairs nicely with the Force of Will we drew. Transplant Theorist. Reshape also pairs very nicely with some of the things we're trying to do. Do I like it better than Transmute? I mean, both of them put it onto Battlefield, so I would argue it doesn't really matter. Reshape, yeah, we can pitch that for itself. Riddlesmith, draw Moon Silver Key. Interesting. Interesting. I still feel like we're in a good spot, but I'm okay. I'm okay pitching an offer at the moment. I'm okay with it. Alright, so now I feel like we're in a good spot, but I'm not quite ready yet to do something too crazy. So what I really want to do is tap Sensei's to draw. It was Prismatic Vista. And put Sensei's on top. Now that might not have been the right play. That might not have been the right play. So let's back that up. So we're going to keep Sensei's here. So Prismatic Vista back on top. We haven't played a land this turn. Let's do that. Cavern of Souls. We still have Jhoira up, so this technically adds one colorless, so we're going to use that to look at the top three. Prismatic Vista, Codex Shredder, and Conjurer's Bauble. Obviously, I like these two way better than the Prismatic Vista. Now, of course, kind of begs the question. This one here, the Bauble, is easier to recur something. So, while we're sitting here thinking, do we really have anything? I mean, we've discarded quite a few. I mean, Hercule's Recall, maybe. Displacement Wave, maybe. We're not in a spot yet where Jeweled Lotus is something I'm, like, super worried about replaying again. So, but like I said, I like Bauble. And then we know we want to churn through a few things, so I'm going to kind of do it, very much do it like this. Now, let's tap and draw, put Sensei's on top. Now, of course, what's the other reason for doing this? Helm of Awakening. Don't forget about that. Because guess what we're going to do? We're going to drop the Conjurer's Bauble. We're going to draw off of Jhoira, Sensei's Divining Top. Transplant Theorist. Draw Codex Shredder. We know we want to keep Codex Shredder. Do we? That's actually a great question. We do, because it's 1 CMC versus Moon Silver Key, which is 2. I would argue, if we draw into Words of Wind, I would argue that between Mox Amber and Mana Vault, we'd be okay. So I'm going to pitch the Moon Silver Key. Alright, then Riddlesmith, we're going to draw. That's the Prismatic Vista we saw earlier. Guess where it's going to go? Boom. Right over there. Don't really want it, don't really need it. Alright, so due to cost reduction, we're going to drop Sensei's Divining Top, trigger Jhoira. Draw a card. Mishra's Bauble. Love to see it. Transplant Theorist. Foundry Inspector. Interesting, interesting. Alright. We don't have anything that can get it cheap enough at the moment. I would argue we only need one cost reducer, and this is a creature, so we're going to pitch it to itself. Riddlesmith, Grim Monolith. We love to see Grim Monolith, but that means we got to pitch something as a part of this process. As much as I don't really want to, Deflecting Swat. Alright, again, you're going to have to read the table a little bit here. Okay? Alright, so we know Codex Shredder's not going to cost us anything. Draw. Is it Signet? Not bad. Transplant Theorist. Draw. Discard. I would argue we have enough in our hand. Merchant Scroll's not going to get us real far. Riddlesmith. Draw. Filter out. Yes. We're going to keep that. And let me see here. We're going to keep Filter out. We're going to pitch, Is it Signet? Alright. So then, Mishra's Bauble. Doesn't cost us anything. Let's go ahead and draw. Staff of Titania. So this is a new one. This is why I have Forest Dryad tokens. So basically Dryad Arbor tokens. This is a new one, but I would argue with the gas we got in our hand, this one is not as big a deal. So it's probably really good discard fodder. So I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Filter Out was Jhoira. Transplant Theorist. Yeah, we're just going to discard it to itself. Riddlesmith. Lotus Petal. Beautiful. Alright, so now we've got a decision. I'm pretty sure I have to double check on Flash. I think Flash just makes some instant speed, so we're going to pitch the Shimmer Mirror for now. Feels bad, I know, but we'll make it. Alright, so now we kind of got to do a little bit of an evaluation. Because I feel like we're in a good spot. But I'm going to have to spend mana to move things. Alright. So, I will pay 1 for Grim Monolith. So this is key here. I'm being very careful by doing it into Grim and not doing Sensei's Top yet. So we'll draw off a Jhoira. Flusterstorm, not bad thing to have in hand. Transplant Theorist. Mystical Tutor. I think that's going to go to itself. Riddlesmith. Jessica's Will. Believe it or not, I really don't feel like at this stage it's necessary. I feel like I like what I have in my hand better. So we're going to pitch that. Alright. So, yep. Lotus Petal. Draw for Jhoira. Talisman of Creativity, not too bad, but we can pitch it if we need to. Transplant Theorist. Land, yeah, I would argue we're in a spot where that's not going to be very helpful. Riddlesmith, land again. Alright, cool. Filtered out lands. Alright, it's at this point we got to be real careful, because then we're going to come in and do this. We're going to crack Lotus, blue. Volcanic Island, blue. Tap and float some with Grim Monolith. So that's 3 colorless. Haven't cast anything yet, so we are sitting on 2 blue, 3 colorless. 1 colorless, I want to look at the top 3. Command Tower, Mana Crypt, yes, we want that. Okay, so I got to deal with some craptastic lands here. So, yep. So I want to put the Mana Crypt on top. But I don't want to spin the wheel just yet. So we're going to have 2 colorless floating still and 2 blue. We're going to end up with 1 colorless floating, and let's do Filter Out. All right. I'll be perfectly honest, this does feel good right here. This does feel good. We've got Mental Misstep. We've got Mental Misstep and Force of Will. If we had to, we could have 2 counters. Easy enough. Okay? I still feel like we're in a good spot. Assuming no one tries to stop us, this could quite literally be game ending. Because literally all of our artifacts go back to our hand. Except for Transplant Theorist. That's a big one. So remember, this is turn 3? 4. This is turn 4. So all those artifacts back to hand. We still have 1 colorless floating. Remember that. So let's go ahead. We start off with some of the easy ones, right? So Mishra's Bauble. Draw. We know that's going to give us Mana Crypt. We know we want it. Draw pitch. Draw pitch. That's filtering out those lands. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's stick with utility. Tormod's Crypt. Trigger Jhoira. Swan Song. Very helpful. Arcane Signet. Also very helpful. Let me look here. Let me look. Yeah. We don't have another cost reducer because we pitched Foundry Inspector earlier. So I'm going to actually let Arcane Signet... No. I'm going to have it Talisman of Creativity. Alright. And then draw. Chain of Vapor. I would argue we're in a good spot. So I'm going to let that, for Riddlesmith, go to itself. Okay. So then, Mox Amber. Draw. Off of Jhoira. The Transplant Theorist. Dragon Rage Channeler. I do like that, so we're going to pitch the City of Brass. Riddlesmith land. We'll pitch that to itself. We still have that one floating colorless. I'm going to tap Mox Amber and use that floating colorless to do Helm of Awakening so we can actually start moving a little bit more here. So it's going to give us Mana Vault, draw, land, draw, pitch. Mystic Remora, I would argue, is not very helpful to us at this point. So we're going to just pitch it. Riddlesmith, draw, Enthusiastic Mechanaut. Alright, beautiful. Assuming we had some colored mana, that would be a lot more beautiful. Let's see here, hand-wise. Yep, we're not looking like we'd be able to cast the Enthusiastic Mechanaut, so we're gonna pitch it. Alright, we still got cards to go. Mana Crypt. Draw Jhoira. Gamble. Yeah, we'll keep Gamble. Well, we also can't pitch it yet, so... And then Transplant Theorist. Mystic Forge. There it is. Because we've also got this, and we've got the Conjurer's Bauble. So we're going to keep Mystic Forge. We'll pitch the Misty Rainforest. Riddlesmith. Pact of Negation, man. That's a thing of beauty. I would argue we're pretty much there. We just got to get over the proverbial hump. And I just dropped some cards. Hold on. Okay, that's Jeweled Lotus and Fabricate, which I would argue is kind of not relevant at this point. So, we now have... We have no floating at all. But then, we're going to be able to drop a lot of stuff. Like, we still have Codex Shredder, Conjurer's Bauble, Sensei's Divining Top, Engineered Explosives. That's going to have us draw a lot of cards. So let's just... Alright, so... Codex Shredder. 1, 2, 3. Alright, lands. Gone. Conjurer's Bauble. Mox Opal. Soul Ring. Yep. Keep. Yep. Phyrexian Morph. Yep. Keep. Yep. I mean, at this point... We're going to pitch that... And that was a gamble. I'll even pitch Retract. Play Moxant Opal. That gives us some colored options. Play Soul Ring. I mean, yeah, we're look at how much of the deck is left. There's not much of the deck left. So yeah, Ethereum Sculptor, Felvar Stone, Machine Over Matter. Transplant Theorist, this is helpful. Bounce. Like, I mean, at this point, we pretty much have it. It's just a matter of drawing through the deck and then pretty much going from there. So, I mean, that's turn 4. That's what we're shooting for, is consistency. So, alright, I'll get ready for the next one.